Hey, everybody, this is not a happy day for fans of the Oakland Athletics who are fans of having a stadium at Howard Terminal or the Coliseum, just maintaining the athletics in Oakland. It's mind boggling that we're actually, to me personally, it's really mind boggling that we're actually having this conversation yet again, just roughly 4 years after the vote that I was at the NFL owners meeting on the 27th of March, of 2017, which resulted in the Raiders relocating from Oakland to Las Vegas. This is a different set. It's a different animal, but this animal has a lot of the same dynamics as the last one. Let me read to you what I put together to help frame my thoughts before I go forward in this live stream. And as the title reads, enough blame to go around in Oakland A's relocation threat. Start with the Oakland Athletics. There's enough blame to go around in the latest episode of, quote, Oakland A's seek a stadium, unquote. And this one should be titled, Oakland A's shoot Selves in foot. Not saying the city of Oakland is not to blame either. The murderer's row of suspects looks like this. John Fisher and Dave Kaval, the owner and president of the Athletics, respectively, the mayor of Oakland, Libby, Schaaf, the City of Oakland, and the East Oakland Stadium Alliance. But the Oakland Athletics, in taking what was to be a city-run project and trying to give the look of running it themselves, exposed how little they knew about the legislation behind their own ballpark project, and because of that, sent out messaging that scared the public. How? The fact is that according to SB 293, the City of Oakland, that's the legislation that gives life to something called the Howard Terminal Industrial Development Project and the Howard Terminal Infrastructure District, the City of Oakland's supposed to establish a new agency that sets up tax increment financing and the bond issue and the cost of the bond and determines what the bond money is to be used for. The Oakland A's are supposed to sit back, build the ballpark, and pay the property tax to the new agency, thereby starting the TIF or tax increment financing engine of money that would pay for a giant bond issue. That bond issue would go for not just affordable housing and not just infrastructure for the ballpark area, but citywide projects. In other words, the A's in Major League Baseball are leaving the City of Oakland with $700 million in community assistance money held up because it's trying to skip town. Why? Because it's impatient. Wow. The City of Oakland screwed up by letting A's president, Dave Kaval, control the messaging on the project. Dave does not understand tax increment financing. So when he let loose about $12 billion in build out development in the Howard Terminal District, which includes the ballpark, Dave forgot that the area collects tax increment revenue. The potential revenue haul, $9 billion for use citywide. And if you're wondering, that's actually assuming a 40-year bond money collection period over which the base year assessed value would increase by a modest 4% per annum over that time average. For comparison's sake, the actual rate of growth in that area is north of that, more like 7%. But I digress. Those of you who understand tax increment financing and also assessed value increase under Proposition 13 get what I'm saying. If you want me to explain in more detail later, I'm happy to. Continuing. The City of Oakland staff knew this potential for years, really back to 2010 in the Gruen and Gruen study, actually before that. But the Gruen and Gruen study marked the first document that actually spelled out the tax increment potential in that area. The staff held this information from public view. For example, they didn't want me, the City of Oakland staffers that were at a community meeting that was held by District 2 Oakland City Council member, now Oakland City Council President, Nikki Fortunato Bass, a year and a half ago, to explain to the audience that was there what tax increment financing was and what the public subsidy money production levels would look like. They wanted to keep it totally quiet. And one of the people there says, Zenny, we should have lunch and talk about this. Well, why? What's there to talk about? Tell them, okay? I'm telling you stuff that I haven't told anyone before. All right? I mean, who ever heard? All right? I mean, this staff doesn't act like previous Oakland City Council or Oakland City of Oakland economic development organizations. Who ever heard of a public official hiding money that could help the community? But that's what the City of Oakland has been doing with respect to potential redevelopment tax increment financing money that could solve the homeless problem in Oakland and have money to spare. Instead, what the city did was they let Dave Kaval take the ball. And he didn't know what to do with it, so he made it sound like, to the unaided eye, to the layperson, oh, the A's are actually paying all this money, when in point of fact, they're just paying the property tax. But the district itself collects the money and distributes it, and the A's don't run the district. The district is ran by an agency that the City of Oakland has not even set up, yet is called for under SB 293, the enabling of legislation for the Howard Terminal District. Okay? The whole deal is just perfectly Oakland. Oakland is so afraid to win that it figures out a way to screw up. Then eventually, Oakland crafts a way to justify its actions. The good news is that it doesn't have to come to pass if we're aggressive. We have to fight, we have to win, and I'm sick and tired of Oakland losing. But this one, if you want to start with where to place the blame, look squarely at the Oakland Athletics and how they handled it. All right? The Athletics should have let the City of Oakland take the ball and run with it as per the legislation. And you would say, what is this SB 293 that I'm talking about? And, I'm happy to show you. It looks, SB 293 looks like this. It's, you can find, all you have to do is type SB 293 in Google, and then Skinner, SKINNER, and then hit return, okay? And then it's the first result, bill text, and I'm going to present it to you right now through the magic of StreamYard by sharing that page, and it looks like this. Boom, bill text, right here, okay? It says, and it reads as follows. For those of you who might need a little help, it reads, Senate Bill number 293, Chapter 762, approved by the Governor, Gavin Newsom, October 11th, 2019. And SB 293 Skinner, Infrastructure Financing Districts, Formation, Issuance of Bonds, City of Oakland. Then it says, existing law authorizes a legislative body, talking about the City of Oakland, of a county, in this case, of a city or county, to designate one or more infrastructure financing districts, adopt an infrastructure financing plan, and issue bonds for which only the district is liable to finance specific public capital facilities of community-wide significance. Existing law specifies procedures for the preparation and adoption of an infrastructure financing plan and the issuance of bonds by a district, including requiring the issuance of bonds be approved by 2/3 of the voters residing within the boundaries of the district, voting on the proposition. Existing law authorizes the inclusion of a provision for the division of taxes in an infrastructure financing plan. Existing law establishes certain alternative procedures for the formation and financing activities of a waterfront district as defined in the City and County of San Francisco. This bill, so that tells you what's on now, okay? Then it goes on and says, this bill would establish alternative procedures for the formation of an infrastructure financing district by the City of Oakland under these provisions. The bill will require the City Council of the City of Oakland to initiate proceedings for the formation of a district by adoption of a resolution of intention to establish the district that, among other things, directs the preparation of an infrastructure financing plan. Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there, okay? Because that's very important. Do you realize the city can clear all this up right now with the city council just voting to establish, say, hey, this voting say, hey, look, we're going to establish this agency to establish this district. That's what it reads. Let me read back to you again. All right, what it says, okay? It says, this bill will require the City of Oakland City Council to initiate proceedings for the formation of the district by adoption of the resolution of intention to establish the district that, among other things, directs the preparation of infrastructure financing plan. That bill will require the infrastructure financing plan to include a provision to division of taxes, but would prohibit the division of taxes with respect to non-consenting affected taxing agencies and specific local education agencies. All that basically says is, hey, when you do this thing, you have to talk to the County of Alameda, BART, AC Transit, the school district, and say, hey, by the way, we're going to be taking this property tax money. We figure that under normal circumstances, you get X from this, and they do. So let's negotiate what's called a pass-through, okay? I'm extremely familiar with that, experience with that going back decades, but I digress, okay? Then it says, okay, then it says that the bill would require a district board, here's where the organization comes in, composed of specific members to hold 3 noticed public hearings on the infrastructure financing plan and to conduct a protest hearing as provided. The bill would authorize the establishment of a district if fewer than 25% of the combined number of landowners and residents in the area, there aren't much, file a protest and of the plan. The bill will require that the district board provide an annual report to each landowner, resident, and affected taxing agency that participates in the plan. In other words, what we're talking about in all this language is a new redevelopment agency organization, folks. All right? All right? And it goes on to repeat that in section 1. And it says that it is therefore on E, the intent of the legislature to provide the City of Oakland, hereafter referred to as the city, with additional latitude within the framework of the laws governing industrial financing districts to create and basically make one, okay? Then it goes on to explain in more detail how that's done. Like it says in section 2, section 5395.82, A, it says the section applies only to the City of Oakland. And B, it says, in addition to that, the legislature further finds and declares that consolidating in a single agency, this is in black and white, folks, okay? This is in black and white. Look at this, all right? In a single agency, it says it right there, okay? This is in black and white. This is supposed to be in a single agency. All right, okay, right there. That's what I'm reading. I just highlighted it for you, okay? B. Let me further just drill down to just B, okay? Here, boomsie, all right? In addition to the findings and declarations in section 53395, the legislature further finds and declares that consolidating in a single agency the ability to capture property tax increment revenues to finance qualified public facilities in the City of Oakland provide community-wide benefits. Now, stop right there. You would say, all right, what's that agency? Okay. And all right. And hey, Kev says the A's just want to get the votes passed for this summer. That's why they're trying to rush them. And, look, I understand what they're doing, but honestly, also the A's did create this mess. Okay. I understand what they want, but look, Kev, this is what the A's did. The A's, by creating messaging mess, created a climate where what they were going to take to the city council was something the city council was going to vote no on, because the council itself has never been properly briefed and doesn't understand the project, because the City of Oakland staff doesn't understand what it's doing. All right? This has been the blind leading the blind. And as a person who's been involved in this sort of thing since 1987, my first job out of grad school was with the Oakland Redevelopment Agency doing tax increment financing calculations, all right? No City of Oakland organization has ever handled this matter like this one. And everyone's talking about it non-publicly. The city comes off like it doesn't know what it's doing, even as much as it says it does. It doesn't. First of all, they let the messaging, the City of Oakland, be taken by the Athletics in key ways, from Dave Kaval making comments to the media, to how the district looks, which came from the A's, which should have come from the district and not the A's. The A's should have left that alone. But by having their fingerprints all over it, they set themselves up for a potential lawsuit. I mean, a gigantic one themselves. This is a mess. I understand what they want, but look, both sides really come off like they don't know what they're doing. The A's as much as the City of Oakland, but the A's went out there and drove this truck, and so they have to really, deal with the blame for the exhaust fumes that it's creating. But I digress. All right. So going back to the legislation, what I was saying here, boom. All right. Again, look at this. In addition to the findings and declarations in section 53.395, the legislature, the legislature further finds and declares that consolidating in a single agency the ability to capture property tax increment revenues to finance qualified public facilities in the City of Oakland will provide community-wide benefits. Now, by its nature, that single agency generally should be separate. All right. It gives you definitions regarding, in fact, the taxing agency, and I describe who they are. The base year assessed value. That's you establish the base year assessed value. The district really should do that, and then you collect the taxes, and you calculate the tax increment revenue by waiting to the next year, and then taking that total assessed value for the district, subtracting the base year assessed value, taking that increment difference, multiplying it times the tax rate, and whimsy, you get the tax increment financing revenue for that first year. And then each year they accumulate to your total, and use that calculated total for your bond issue. You calculate all that ahead of time, which you can do. Don't let anybody tell you have to wait for it to build up. They tell you that, they don't know what they're doing. All right. As far as agencies, let me give you examples of similar agencies. Some of them, if you're watching, you may have heard of, like the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, right? The Las Vegas Stadium Authority collects the taxes. It's staffed in part by people from applied economics and also the county of Clark County, and it collects the monies from hotel taxes in that example. All right. Or how about coming back to the City of Oakland, the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority, which collected was to collect the monies from the Raiders bond issue, the Raiders PSLs. But of course that didn't happen. And so because of the way the bond was written, it fell back to the city. And that's something important to understand here. Bonds are different instruments written in different ways. Okay. So you can write a bond that has what they call the backstop, the city and the county. But if you're doing it, say in Harris County where Houston is located, they have a law that specifically prohibits that. They just say, hey, you know what? You have to restructure the bond and it goes into default. Okay, so whatever. That actually happened in the case of what was called Energy Stadium, where the Houston Texans play football. That actually happened in 2008. Did anybody hear about it? Nope, not at all. Why? Hey, it was law. It happens. There was one item written about it in the media, and nobody knew it would happen. It was painless. Everything went on. The taxpayers didn't know a thing because they weren't supposed to. Okay, so get your comments. It says, what a sad day in Oakland history. The A's are gone. Sad, sad, sad. You know what? This is time for Hail Marys. And I hope that's not the past, but it is a sad day. And I'm not going to discount that or disagree with it. It is a very sad day for what I felt was going to come, and I explained to people privately, has come. All right. And it says, Kevco, I don't know why they're impatient. Let the city look over everything and allow a vote. Don't rush a vote. If the A's want a city vote before summer, but groundbreaking 2022, they could have waited for a later vote from the city. They could have. I mean, I heard rumblings that the A's were fooling around in Las Vegas, and I asked Dave Kaval privately, "Hey, what's going on in Las Vegas?" Because I'm getting rumors, and I didn't get the answer I was looking for. And I've always said that, look, there should be definitive comment from the Athletics, and that's Mr. Kaval, who's the president, that, hey, we're not leaving. But that never came up. All right? That never came to pass. They always, to me, they always quietly held 1 foot out the door just in case, rather than being 1 million billion percent committed. And then it's almost like Baby Huey. It's kind of like, hey, Baby Huey's got a lot of power, but Baby Huey doesn't quite understand what Baby Huey's gotten into. And so when it doesn't quite work the way they think it should, suddenly there's an impatience. No. And the reason why I'm speaking this way is I have worked privately to explain to anyone who wouldn't listen how this is supposed to work, because I'm one of the few people in the city who's still alive that has experience of it. Do they call and ask me for advice? No comment. Well, my point is, the simple fact of the matter is, the way they've done it is wrong. And you have city staff that lead a city council that has no idea how this stuff is supposed to work. This is, in my history with the city in many different ways, this is all I focused on, okay? That goes all the way back to 1987. That goes to when Ezra Rapport asked me to calculate the tax increment financing revenue streams for what became the Coliseum redevelopment area. By law, then it was supposed to be called the Coliseum Redevelopment Survey Area, and it became at 6,000 acres, the largest redevelopment area in the state of California, if not the United States. I've had a lot of history here. And then on top of that, I spilled part of that knowledge into the bid that I formed to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. Yeah, we lost to Jacksonville, but I'm telling you, out of 11 cities, we were one of 3 finalists. Not bad, okay? So I have some skin in this game intellectually that a lot of people don't have. We have the former Patrick McConnell, who was the great County of Alameda auditor, is no longer involved with this. We have Richard Winnie, great Alameda County Council, who's no longer involved in this, was a mentor of mine. He's passed away. Steve Zaley is no longer involved. Craig Koshin, with city manager, is no longer involved. Robert Bob, as city administrator, still a great friend of mine and was my boss back in up to 2001. Not involved in this, and the mayor should have hired him and didn't. Okay. I can go on and on and on about the people that know this stuff backward and forward, who can get the job done like that, who are not involved in this process. And it's maddening. And I'm just listening to people that I know. But the simple fact of the matter is that you also have law firms. There used to be law firms like McCutcheon, Brown, and Anderson that were really specialized at this stuff. No, you would say, why is that the case? Because Governor Brown, Jerry, got rid of redevelopment. So when he got rid of redevelopment in 2011, you know what went with it? Went away? It went away the need for the expertise, all right? The expertise that we had to do these things, all right? So, okay. So you have a comment on the side. Oh, okay. He says, why does Oakland want to be a bedroom city? Sir, that is a great question that I think there are a number of people, to give you a very blunt answer, that are in Oakland that see Oakland's negatives, and they tend mostly to be white and well-moneyed, and maybe they have a job in San Francisco or friends throughout. They live in the hills of Oakland, but they still have an idea of Oakland. And this has gone on for a long time, all right? Going back to when I was columnist for the Montclarian, and people were shocked that the Montclarian hired a black guy to be their columnist, let alone a guy who didn't come from a journalism background, but he had worked in the city of Oakland as an intern. That was my column from 1993 to 1996, okay? But I'm being very blunt with you. There are people who wistfully look at San Francisco as the model and think San Francisco's the way. I can talk for a long time about that, but hope that answers your question. Save Oakland Sports was full of it. No, they weren't. I thought Save Oakland Sports did a great job. There've been a lot of efforts. Save Oakland Sports, Keep the A's in Oakland, that Bob Lemon was involved in, along with my friend I got a call, Chris Dobbins. All right. So what's your opinion of the Oakland Stadium Alliance group? I love Michael Welch, their attorney, but publicly there's just as much to blame as the others. Why? Because what they do, and what they do is they take this gobbledygook that's drummed up by people who have this political agenda about left and right and all this stuff, and they don't understand the techniques behind the bond issue or tax increment financing or the way this specific legislation is written. They don't understand any of that. They don't know how to build a model of it, right, to evaluate it. They know none of that. So they replace the truth with what they think they know, and they apply what they think they know as an opinion, and it turns out to be a complete lie. And what happens is that media that's put out there, the Stadium Alliance vomits the stuff up in their emails, and they know it's wrong. Look, the East Oakland Stadium Alliance knows damn well we, right now, can get together in a room with the members that make up the East Oakland Stadium Alliance, representatives from the Oakland City Council and the Mayor's Office, and the Athletics, and the Planning Department in the City of Oakland and Public Works, and fashion a plan that meets the needs of the East Oakland Stadium Alliance clients, particularly with respect to the maritime, the basin, the turning basin up there that they want refurbished, and truck insects access and egress, and also calculating or having a facility that brings the trucks in large number and figures out a way to accommodate them with the ballpark. Why? For a very slick reason. Because we need that what's called unsecured property money for the redevelopment area. My point is this. Everyone talks about land as its own, like the baseball park, right? But what no one talks about are those trucks that are ran on Port of Oakland property. That's unsecured property. That's counted as part of the tax increment, folks. How do I know? Because I had to deal with that with the Port of Oakland and the Oakland Airport decades ago, way back in 1988. We were fashioning the Coliseum redevelopment area, among other things that I've done in my life, okay? But that was the big enchilada because the port was really weird about what they thought they were giving up, even as much as the port had no plan for it at the time, okay? That's another long story, okay? Experience, folks. This is where experience matters. A lot of the city staff don't have it. I had somebody yelling at me, says, well, you can't do that anymore because what about possessor interest and all that? Well, no, look. And I go back to the example of a guy named J.W. Severa, who owned the property that is now Brooklyn Basin. And he tried to make the argument that he didn't want to pay taxes to the city regarding his situation. I think actually he wound up losing it. But my point is he owned that huge swath of land, but the law says that, yeah, you own that whole land and maybe the city can't tax all that's on it, but they can tax you as the owner. Sorry. The bottom line is this, folks. Taxes are still collected. Therefore, guess what? The tax increment financing engine still works. Ta-da. All right, moving along. Okay. So there you go. And you look, Mike Welch, I hope you're watching this. You need to watch this. You know you can make a difference here. You know you can make this happen. You know we can do it both. Please stop this view like it can't be done because you know and I know personally that it can't. I'm just saying it's time, it's time to just start telling it like it is as much as we can effectively do that so we can get to yes and get over this problem, okay? Because it's a big problem. This is embarrassing for the city of Oakland. I want to win. I want Oakland to win. I am tired of freaking losing, okay? I've had it with losing, and you should too, okay? This is ridiculous. It just like it didn't help the Raiders having successful 49ers across the bay. Well, that's neither here nor there. I mean, look, sometimes a successful sports organization, it might seem like, oh yeah, maybe it's going to give you better leverage. Sometimes it creates envy with some people and doesn't. That's another story. Albert says, I just got a notification about the Vegas A's rumor. That's the other thing. Yeah, and I have heard that before. That I heard that at Vital Vegas, who I regard as a great blogger, about 3 months ago, and I took him to task for it because I didn't feel. I mean, look, the way he put it, it didn't ring true to me because he put it as if it was just going to happen, like boom, it's going to happen. And when I hear that, I don't see A to B. I see A sub 1, A sub 2, A sub 3, A sub 4, A sub 5, A sub 6. You get the idea? In other words, I see all the processes that we have to go through to get from A to B. And sometimes those processes don't come to pass. All right. So, okay. So my point is, again, that in this, the Athletics have as much to blame, and so does Major League Baseball by extension for this. This isn't the first time the commissioner of Major League Baseball has really, jumped the gun on this sort of thing, right? And put out a statement that basically says, hey, hurry up. But right now, the Athletics have their name attached to you. Say, well, Zinni, what do I mean? Good question. Let me go back and show you what I'm talking about here, all right? When we scroll down, we find, as we go down here in the mention of things, in fact, you know what? You want to get there the quick way, all you got to do is go to Zinni, go to find in page and then type athletics, okay? And it reads public facilities. This is 10, okay? Public facilities means facilities to be authorized to be financed in whole or in part by a district formed under this chapter in accordance with the subdivision E. Public facilities may be publicly owned or privately owned if they are available to and serve the general public, but shall not include any ballpark for the Oakland Athletics Major League Baseball franchise. All right? They're specifically mentioned here. Why? Because this whole thing is about them. So the A's, from a legal perspective, need to look at this. Look at me, okay? Regard en face, as they would say in French. You need to look at this as being very much like the Warriors issue with respect to that bond rental payment, base rental payments, okay? Your name is issued. Your name is there. This creates a but-for situation. In other words, this whole legislation would not occur but for you being the focus of it and the beneficiary of it. So you're going to go and skip town and do everything else and leave everybody high and dry? No. I'm telling you, you're fooling with a lawsuit, okay? That's the way this is structured. The history of this city, which you should know. If you don't, shame on you. I'm letting you know, okay? And what you specifically have walked into with SB 293, you set yourself up to get screwed. So you guys need to think twice, then 3 times, and then 4 times, and then a 5th time about what you're doing. And then don't do it. All right? Okay, so says first the Warriors, then the Raiders, now possibly the A's. It's a shame the city of Oakland might be obliterated from the sports world. Completely agree. Michael Eubanks, the truth is Oakland, for reasons unknown to me, does not want professional sports in the city. Michael, we have a problem with building public facilities. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I said it in the case of the Raiders and the stadium issue. Oakland has to prove it has the will and the initiative to complete big projects. And under my god sister, which makes me cry, but it's a fact, Oakland has not done that. Oakland has not proven it has the will and the initiative to complete big public projects. Private project? Oh, sure. Okay. But public project? No. All right. And that's a huge problem. We don't have a decent convention center to capture, a significant amount of the tourist related and convention dollars that fly in and out of the Bay Area literally on a regular basis. And that's gone on for decades. Okay. We had one little snippet of a try of a convention center of 150,000 square feet downtown, and that's it. We talked of expanding on it. We never did. Okay, we never did. All right, so it's not just professional sports. It's large-scale public, private, and public projects that we have this problem with. And the place where that problem of incompetence, and I'll say it just like that, stops, is where it goes to the very competent, and has been historically, Port of Oakland. The Port of Oakland is always regarded as that government arm of Oakland that could get things done. But that has seldom, not never, but seldom translated to the city itself. Ever. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter who was at the helm. Okay? It has a lot to do with Oakland's, first of all, Oakland's biggest problem is that it's a suburb of San Francisco. And that, so San Francisco is expected to do things. I'll give you another example. I was at the Balboa Cafe when I was working for the City of Oakland, working on the Super Bowl. And Balboa Cafe, I'm a regular there. That's how I met the governor, current governor. He was, part owner of it, and his dad was the judge and a great man and all that. And I'll say all that flippantly. Judge Newsom was a fantastic man. But I digress. Into the bar one day comes on Saturday. None other than my boss, Jerry Brown. And I said, Mayor Brown, Jerry. He goes, what are you doing here? I said, I'm a regular here. He says, well, how come? He says, well, he says, well, how come you're not, trying to get investors for Super Bowl? I said, well, that's why I'm here, money. I said, but I could use your help. All right. I never got his help. All right. I never got his help. And then, Jerry had said to a group of business people from China, hey, why are you here? We've got all the hotels are in San Francisco. Well, in other words, rather than pointing out our weaknesses, the governor should have been head deep in building on our strengths. Instead, he created the 10K project because he wanted to bring elegant density to Oakland. He had said to the media, but people weren't paying attention. They didn't want redevelopment money or affordable housing money spent downtown. Did you hear what I said? He said that in 2000, and then he redoubled his comment in 2002, and then he said it again last year in January during that symposium he had about his career and his life. Okay? So Oakland has not had its champions. Oakland has had more people willing to take things out of it and from it than not. With the A's, we had the Haas family, which was the last Oakland ownership group to show 100% commitment, unequivocally, without reservation, to the city of Oakland and to the residents of Oakland and to Oakland. That's the last time. Everybody else, doesn't matter if it was Schott and Hoffman, and I like Ken and Schott and Steve Hoffman a lot, but they were trying to sneak out of town, all right? They had Andy Dolich working for them. I love Andy to this day. Andy's a great friend of mine, okay? Andy was representing the A's. I was representing the city. He was trying to make sure that we paid all of their electricity money when they owed us some. I'll never forget that, because he then tried to go to Elihu, like he was going to go behind my back, right? Elihu sat me down in the meeting, knew what Andy was going to do, and basically Elihu stood behind me and basically parroted everything that I was saying to Andy as I was talking to him. Okay? We have not had champions in the private sector much at all. Like even Benioff was getting after him about this on Twitter when I said, hey, you know what? You try to take the Warriors from us. You gave the land basically to your friend Joe Lacob. He says, weren't you concerned about education in Oakland? Well, of course. Hey, San Francisco had an education problem too, but that didn't stop him from trying to help San Francisco get the Warriors, did it? Okay? See what I'm getting at? Where are our champions? Where are Oakland's champions? I feel like, I'm fighting, a battle by myself. Says, look like, I hope that's wrong. But it's hard for me to disagree with you. This is not a California problem, it's an Oakland problem. There's been sports venues that have been built over the last 10 years, including 3 in Northern California. Yeah, but Cowboy P, again, I said, Oakland has a problem. We lack the will and the initiative to complete big projects. I didn't foist that on anybody else. Okay? Libby and Quan, this falls on them. And, to a degree, I have to agree with you, because I remember at the breakfast for the 2010 breakfast, prior to the Beta Breakers. Excuse me, no, the Pride Breakfast. This is Pride Day. And I'm going to tell you something. If you live in the Bay Area and you're in business, the sexual orientation of people your business with should be no concern to you. So if you're invited to the Alice B. Toklas Democratic Club breakfast, you go. Period. That's where I was. And that's where Mayor Kwan was. And Rick Welts, who was the great president of the Warriors at the time, was at the next table. And I was saying to him, you know what? The Warriors are going to leave over my dead body. I said, Gene's over there. And so I went over to Gene. I was saying, you got to talk to Rick Welts. He's right over there. Oh, we're in conversation and all this stuff she says. And she told me she didn't realize that the Warriors were as important to people as they expressed. Okay. And I'm not saying that Gene didn't try. Gene owned the creation of Coliseum City. And Gene got the importance of sports, but she didn't understand the importance of having an infrastructure, an organization, a constant push that represents the best interests of the community. We've allowed sports in fact, by elected officials, making personal comments about owners. We've allowed it to be a personal thing rather than a clinical business transaction. I don't care how anyone feels about, look, Joe Lacob or Dave Kaval, who I happen to like as a friend, or John Fisher. All right? These are business people to work with. But to have these personal issues and someone says, well, that elected official doesn't like Dave Kaval. Why? Well, he just doesn't like his style. That's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with Dave Kaval. When you make that personally, it comes out publicly, it's like, wait, Alice in Wonderland? Just get the job done and forget how you personally feel about someone because you perceive them as rich. Or Councilmember Fife saying, well, I've got no time for this. It's just homelessness. Forgetting for a moment that she can take that $700 million and basically solve the homeless problem in Oakland. Or at least go a long way toward it. But she didn't know the legislation. She just popped off on Twitter. We have had too much of that in Oakland's history. You hear me? She's not the first. There have been legions and legions and legions of people, council members who've done that over time. They get in there and they feel like they have to show that they're equal to the rich people, the rich white guys and all this stuff. That's not what it's about. Just do the transaction, get the job done for the best, interest of the community, and be done with it. Haas respected Oakland, but the others treat us like suckers, especially Al. Hey, they've got some blame too. Jamal, how you doing? How you doing, Jamal? Jamal says, hey, maybe leadership wants Oakland to be a more residential town than a major city. I do get that impression. But that's my point, though. It goes into a decades-long battle about what Oakland is. There have been people for some time who've acted like that. But then you say residential for whom? For rich folks? Because look at our homeless problem. Oakland, by its size and location and its port, can't help but be a big city. We're the hub for commerce for much of the Bay Area. So my point is, there may be people who want Oakland to be a residential city, but we have had constant pressures up against us, geographic pressures, industrial pressures that force us to become a big city, whether others like it or not. Okay? He says, I say that because I don't understand why and again, I'm spelling it out. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm explaining what it is. Is San Jose our only hope of keeping them in the area? San Jose is no, because San Jose has a problem that some of you apparently are not familiar with, and it's the Giants issue. Okay? Because when this noise first started about San Jose having the A's, do you know who chimed in on it? The Giants, saying, hey, you're in our territory, and the Major League Baseball Constitution does not allow you to invade our territory. Guess what, folks? That still exists. All right? That still exists, okay? So I'm going to take a break, and I'll be back to talk about this later. We'll see if unless anybody else has a comment that they want to chime in on. But I hope that this gives you as full a picture as I can with a confined amount of time. Please read SB 293 here. Let me go through some other aspects of this in the time remaining I have on this, because this discusses what the district may do. Okay, it says, all right. It says, oh, by the way, I just was informed that Mark Davis had a comment here that I was informed of. And excuse me, let me pull that up. And it says, Mark Davis is on Athletics looking to relocate. And he says, I hate to say it's expected, but it's expected. It's what we went through. The government up there is just not capable of putting a deal together that's win-win. He's right. And that's all you ever look for is a win-win. Mark Davis, okay, I'm gonna highlight that, okay, if I can. And yeah. And Mark Davis is right. Okay. God love him. This is thank you, Michael. Mark Davis is right. And you know, it's very hard, but he is absolutely right. He says, Mark Davis on Athletics looking to relocate. I hate to say it's expected, but it's expected. It's what we went through. The government up there is just not capable of putting a deal together. That's damning. Because, see, Mark Davis has two things. He says, A is a win. That's all you look for is a win-win. That's right. That's all you ever want. It's the same thing. I've said the same thing. It's all you ever want is nope, they're not. All you ever want, excuse me, is a win-win. That's all you ever want is a win-win. Okay? Aaron Blaylock says Bush League leadership. We act like it. And again, my point is this. You know, it's not that we can't get the job done. I'm here. There are others that are involved or can be. We don't get called on. People have their, oh, Zinni is this and all this stuff. You know what? That's why Oakland fails. You're too busy trying to find out what's wrong with people who can get the job done for them, rather, you know, than saying, you know what, all, like Robert Bob used to say, all hands on deck. All hands on deck. All right? Yeah, the smartest way and the only way to do business is a win-win. All hands on deck. That's it. All hands on deck. Okay? So, and that's to the mayor. I would say privately, there are a lot of people that have done a lot of talking to each other, and I think that's a fair way of putting it. A lot of really great people in Oakland. So this is, faith. I have the faith that we'll get something done, but I have faith in God. But I also have faith that there are other cities like Las Vegas that, to be honest with you, have a better infrastructure deal at doing deals. Las Vegas has no problem getting its power structure in line. And so what we have a tendency to do as Oakland is we would say, oh, they're not going to go anywhere. Where are they going to go? It's kind of like we dare them. I dare you, I dare you, I dare you, I dare you. And they do it. It's like, oh, they left, right? Okay? We're always too cautious. We've been the practitioner of safe politics for too long. Always concerned about what somebody else thinks rather than leading the thought process. Rather than telling people what to think, especially if it's about Oakland. That's what leaders do. Asshole, maybe. Driven, yeah. Jack Bull determined, you got it. So what? That's what people expect. They expect the person who knows what to do it, and then go on to the next job. Go on to the next mission. That's it. All right? We don't have that enough in Oakland. We did when the Raiders left the first time. Oh boy, all the right people got involved and ignited. And yeah, you can make arguments about what went wrong, but we got the Raiders back. And we had them for a good long time. We gave them a freaking good deal. Okay? A deal so good that it wasn't until Scott McKibben took the helm of running the Joint Powers Authority that the Raiders actually, felt what a real rent looked like. Ouch. Prior to that, They were getting away with murder. Coliseum Authority was constantly in the red. Scott McKibben got them out of the red. What did he get for it? He got set up to make it look like he was trying to do something illegal. Scott had no idea what he was doing because no one had told him about this conflict of interest laws, the fact that he was a consultant, rather than a true city staff member, all that stuff. He was never briefed. Okay? So they made a good man look like a criminal for nothing. And Scott McKibben was the best director of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Joint Powers Authority the organization ever had. Henry Gardner came in to play cleanup, which is what Henry does exceptionally well. But Henry is not Scott McKibben. I love Henry Gardner a lot. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. He's the current guy. But Henry was brought in one of those in case of emergency break glass situations. And that's what that was. Because, they got rid of Scott. All right. What's this about Portland? Are they the front runners? I would say right now, you know what? Here's how to determine who the front runner is. The Biden infrastructure bill. If the bill passes at $4 billion, then determine where it goes. Okay? If Portland gets part of it, you can bet Portland becomes the front runner because they got a plan ready to go. Now, Las Vegas has an A stadium there. Could it be converted to the stadium for the A's? That's a possibility. However, I would think a weakened casino organization would want to step in. Here's the big issue with Las Vegas that gives Las Vegas a front-running capacity over Portland, and also further dams Oakland's position. Do you realize that we in Oakland do not have a strategy, let alone the state of California, for gaining revenues from sports gambling? Think about that. There's no plan to build, a sports book or anything. You would think that we would be trying to do that. Yeah, I know the state is rich. We have a $75 billion surplus that, whoever has it. And that gets back to the other point. We have a tendency to be a little bit too arrogant rather than hungry. And that spills over to Oakland. We have to drop the arrogance in Oakland and get really hungry. Because that success is around us, right? It's in San Francisco or it's the state, but it's not in Oakland. And when it is, it's someone like Hines trying to bring a monstrosity over that spills 3,800 employees on it with no housing. And so, this is a gift to Oakland, as if we have nothing. We have a lot of great facilities and we have a lot of great construction going on. What we have to worry about is how we end the engine that creates our homeless problem. We can do that. And that is why what the A's were doing was so important. Okay? Read right here this beautiful piece of legislation, SB 293, because it also says, all right, that among other things, that the development of projects on a former military base, in other words, it could be part of this, all right? It says, in addition to other projects authorized by this chapter, a district form pursuant to this section may finance any of the following. Let's go through this, okay? Highways, sewage treatment, facilities, flood control, child care facilities. Again, I repeat, child care facilities, okay? Let's continue, all right? Libraries. This is in black and white, folks. Parks and recreational facilities and open space. Facilities for the transfer and disposal of solid waste. Brownfield restoration, other environmental mitigation. Which means a way to develop, more building structure, right? The development of projects on a former military base. That's West Oakland, okay? The repayment of transfer funds to a military base reuse authority. Ooh. The acquisition, construction, or rehabilitation of housing, whether publicly or privately owned, for very low income households. Right there. You see that, Carol Fife? See that, council member? There's your homeless solution right there. Okay? Says so. Look at that. Beautiful stuff. acquisition, construction, or repair of industrial structures for private use. Transit priority projects right here. Oh, and by the way, it even calls out the State Air Resources Board, pursuant to Chapter 2.5, commencing with Section 65080 of Division 1 of Title 7, has accepted a Metropolitan Planning Organization's determination that the Sustainable Community Strategy or the Alternative Planning Strategy would, if implemented, achieve the greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. Projects that implement a sustainable community strategy that can be financed that too. In other words, hey, you got your green project, we can finance that right here too. All right. Projects that enable communities to adopt the impacts of climate change. Port or harbor infrastructure that deals with the concerns of the East Oakland Stadium Alliance. Seismic and life safety improvement to existing buildings. Rehab, structure repair, removal of bay fill, stormwater management facilities, other repair improvements for public facilities, planning and design work that is directly related to any public facility, reimbursement payments to the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, improvements which may be publicly owned to protect against potential sea level rise. You hear that, Dave Kaval? Fire stations. Look at this list. This list is enormous. Okay? All right? You can even have a limit on the aggregate number of dollars levied taxes that may be divided and allocated to the district. Oh, and by the way, folks, the bond costs all of this that I'm reading out to you, okay? If the bond happens to have a problem where its payment, the agency can adjust the boundaries in the project area and correct more money to pay off the bond. The agency is responsible for it, or should be. It doesn't have to be the city and the county. You can structure the bond that way. That's the beauty of this. That's why when residents keep talking about, well, you know, the city's going to have to pay for. No, it's how the bond issue is written. You don't have to write it that way. It doesn't call for it to be written that way in the legislation. Read the damn thing. And this is why I say that the A's are to be responsible for this thing getting spun out of control. They should have let the city do its job in explaining it, and the city should know what the fuck, and I said it just like that, and excuse me for cursing, I know some of you don't like that, but I apologize, but I'm emphasizing a point, should have done, okay? The city should have held and should take the messaging on that from here on out. Period. End of story. This is nutso stuff. And I'm not saying the A's are nuts or Dave Kaval, but this, because everybody's grabbing on and trying to, go do this, all right? And move forward without a czar, a person that is responsible for it, which is Libby's mistake. She's trying to pass it off to somebody else, and then the A's are basically trying to make it look like it's theirs, but the A's don't know what they're doing, and they're not the organization and legislation that's called out to do it. The legislation specifically says the City of Oakland is supposed to set up the district and the agency. It's in black and white, the city and the county. It doesn't say the Oakland Athletics. So the Oakland A's have been working in a way where they could actually be accused of tortious interference against the project that helps themselves legally. This whole thing, and show this to the commissioner, okay? The commissioner needs to back off. Forget the stuff about relocation and clear this up, because the A's are not legally clean right now. And I understand the commissioner is upset. He has a right to be. The way the city has handled this, I would be upset too. But the way they're going about handling, I think they should have done it back channel first before, launching this out publicly. Not cool. But hey, not the first time mess has been spilled here, but it's got to be the last. We got to stop this stuff. I am tired of my city looking incompetent. I've had it. All right, I'll see you all later. Thank you.